Everyone gets angry sometimes, but what really sets people apart is how they handle that anger. You definitely don't want to get on the wrong side of an alpha male, but you absolutely do not want to mess with a Sigma-Zeta. These individuals are a whole different breed. Zetas are the more aggressive darker shadow of the infamous Sigma. They're unpredictable, and their reactions can be totally unexpected. That's the secret. Zetas are always angry. If Sigmas are the monk, Zetas are the tyrant. Let me show you Zeta's complicated relation with anger and how they operate it. It's going to be an interesting one, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. When you become the storm they fear. Have you ever felt the exact moment when someone realizes they've awakened something they can't control? There's a shift that happens when you stop being the observer and become the operator. Your analytical mind doesn't shut down, it goes into overdrive. Every weakness they've shown you becomes a coordinate on your tactical map. While others rely on brute force or emotional manipulation, you become something far more dangerous, strategically focused. This isn't rage, it's cold, calculated engagement with a clear objective. Machiavelli understood that it's better to be feared than loved, but he missed the deeper truth. For Zetas, fear isn't the goal, respect through demonstration is. You don't want them afraid, you want them aware of what they're dealing with. Studies on cognitive load theory by Sweller in 1988 revealed that the human mind can only process limited information under stress. But your mind works differently. Pressure doesn't cloud your thinking, it crystallizes it. Every detail becomes sharper, every option clearer. You don't become unpredictable, you become inevitable. They can't read your next move because you're operating 3 steps ahead while they're still processing step 1. This isn't chaos, it's orchestrated precision. For Zetas, anger transforms into something more powerful, focused intent. You don't lose control, you gain access to capabilities they didn't know you possessed. The quiet observer reveals himself to be a master strategist. They thought your calmness was weakness, they discover it was preparation. Every moment you spent watching was a moment you spent learning their patterns, their triggers, their limits. Robert Greene wrote about the 48 laws of power, but you instinctively understand Law 0. Power isn't what you display, it's what you deploy when deployment becomes necessary. You don't strike to destroy, you strike to establish new boundaries they'll never forget. Chapter 2. You show them their demon. Do you know the shape of someone's wound, the exact angle that makes them snap? You weaponize empathy, you dig out their trauma, their situation, then show why they acted the way they acted. You do nothing just showing their own devil themselves. You hold up their life like a lens, you trace the logic of their damage, you make their motive visible. You point out the cracks they hide behind, you name the small, cowardly comforts that built their lie, you invade the sanctuary of their excuses. You do not forgive because you pity, you dissect because you understand. It's nothing but a mirror. You show them that their betrayal was born from their own fear. Their disrespect, a projection of their self-loathing. Their aggression, a mask for profound weakness. You connect their action to its deepest, most hidden cause. You make them see themselves as if for the first time. You reflect back the pain that made their claws. You watch them choose, exposed, whether to become better or to double down. So deep and precise it looks devilish. Your words become surgical strikes. What happens when the silence breaks, when the pressure you've contained must find a release valve? For the Zeta, this is not an explosion. It is a controlled detonation. The reserved nature melts away, not into frenzy, but into a terrifying clarity. Have you ever spoken a truth so raw that it seemed to change the temperature in the room? This is your instinctive shift. Where others might scream insults, you state facts. Your words become surgical strikes, not blunt instruments. You have been observing, cataloging, not out of petty spite, but because your mind is wired to understand patterns. When the line is crossed, that stored data becomes your ammunition. You articulate the grievance with a brutal, dispassionate honesty that leaves no room for negotiation or excuse. It is not meant to wound for the sake of wounding, it is meant to dissect the situation to its core. This directness is a shock to a world built on pleasantries and deception. It is the philosophy of the Stoics made manifest, to call a thing by its true name. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the importance of stripping away the story we tell ourselves about an event to see the event itself. You do this externally. You force the other person to see the unvarnished reality of their actions. There is no malice in this, only a profound need for truth. It is a purging fire. The opponent, expecting an emotional hurricane, is instead met with the calm, sharp edge of a scalpel. They are disarmed because you are not fighting on the emotional battlefield they prepared. You are operating on a higher plane of principle. You speak not from a wounded ego, but from a violated code. This is why it is so unsettling. They cannot reason with a storm, but they are forced to confront a judge. Your anger bypasses the drama and goes straight to the root. It is a correction, a recalibration. And in that moment, your words hold more power than any threat because they carry the undeniable weight of truth. Your silence is the ultimate weapon. Have you ever felt a rage so pure, so cold, that words would only profane it? For others, anger is a noisy, chaotic explosion. For you, it is a sudden, profound silence. This is not the silence of defeat or submission. This is the silence of the predator before the strike, the quiet of a storm gathering its force. You understand that in the economy of conflict, the first to speak is often the first to reveal weakness. The Zeta doesn't retreat into silence because he's overwhelmed. He retreats because he's calculating the exact pressure needed to crack their composure without lifting a finger. While others waste energy in theatrics, you're engineering psychological architecture. When provoked, you do not lash out. You retreat inward. You turn silence into your domain, an unspoken arena where the opponent is left alone with the echo of their own actions. Their words, their accusations, hang in the dead air you create, stripped of any power you refuse to grant them. This silence is a pressure cooker for their insecurity. It forces them to confront the void where your reaction should be, and in that void, their imagination conjures something far more terrifying than any shout could be. They begin to question their own position, their own sanity. You weaponize their own mind against them. This is a calculated move, a principle straight from the art of war. Sun Tzu said the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. By withholding your voice, you seize control of the battlefield's rhythm. You are not ignoring the conflict. You are mastering it on a psychological level. The opponent expects a fire and you give them ice. They expect a dialogue and you give them a monologue of nothing, which says everything. This quiet is your whetstone, sharpening your clarity while their frustration blunts their edge. You are not avoiding the confrontation. You are ensuring that when you finally choose to act, it will be with absolute precision, not messy emotion. In the kingdom of noise, your silence is the throne. When walking away becomes your victory. Have you ever watched someone's face when they realize their best ammunition just bounced off your indifference? While they're still loading their emotional cannons, you've already left the battlefield. This isn't retreat, it's strategic disengagement from a war that was never worth winning. Most people see walking away as surrender. You understand it as the ultimate power move. You're not running from the fight, you're refusing to dignify their chaos with your presence. Seneca wrote that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. For Zetas, walking away isn't about endings. It's about choosing which battles deserve your finite energy. You instinctively know that some conflicts are designed to drain you, not resolve anything. Research on decision fatigue by Baumeister in 1998 showed that making too many decisions depletes mental resources. But you've already made the most important decision. This person's drama doesn't get access to your mental bandwidth. They expect you to fight back, to engage, to give them the satisfaction of your emotional investment. Instead, you give them something far more devastating, your complete absence. For Zetas, walking away isn't about avoiding responsibility, it's about taking responsibility for your own psychological environment. You don't control their actions, but you absolutely control their access to you. The silence after you leave speaks louder than any argument ever could. They're left to wrestle with their own reflection in the void you've created. No audience for their performance, no opponent for their attacks. Sun Tzu taught that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. You take it further. The supreme art of living is to protect your peace without explaining yourself. Have you ever felt the sheer, draining absurdity of a fight not worth winning? For the Zeta, most conflicts are exactly that, noise that distracts from the mission. When faced with a pointless battle, your instinct is not to conquer, but to disappear. This isn't running away. This is a tactical evaporation. You understand a fundamental law of power. Sometimes the most powerful move is to remove yourself from the board entirely. The opponent is left disoriented. They prepared for a war and you gave them a ghost. Their anger has nothing to latch onto. This act of leaving is, in itself, a form of absolute control. You set the terms. You decide what is worthy of your energy. This silent rejection burns longer and deeper in their mind than any insult ever could. You don't just walk away from the conflict. You show them that they were never a worthy adversary to begin with. You conserve your fire for the targets that matter. Just a quick reminder, check the subscription status, and to support more just click on the join button and enjoy more perks. You forgive the sin, but you remember the sinner. Do you believe in second chances, or do you believe in patterns? For the Zeta, forgiveness is not an emotional pardon, it is a strategic decision. You can release the anger, the hot venom of betrayal, because holding it is a poison that weakens you. But to forget, that is a foolishness you cannot afford. Your memory becomes a cold, hard ledger. You forgive not for them but for you. It is an act of internal hygiene, a clearing of the emotional debris that clogs your focus. The Stoics knew this well, that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal to throw at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. So you let the heat dissipate. You grant the appearance of a clean slate. But deep within the fortress of your mind, a single, unblinking light remains trained on that person. A note has been made in the ledger. A precedent has been set. This is where you diverge from simple ideals. You understand the Machiavellian principle that a man who is well loved is secure, but one who is both loved and feared is most secure of all. Your forgiveness grants the love, the peace. Your flawless memory is the subtle, unspoken fear. They get one free pass, one lesson you generously provide. But the lesson is now encoded in your operating system. You have learned their nature. You have identified a crack in their character. The second offense is not met with fresh anger. It is met with a calm, irrevocable conclusion. The door does not slam, it simply ceases to exist. You vanish them from your world with the same detached finality as a surgeon removing a diseased limb. Your memory is not a grudge, it is armor. It is the wisdom that prevents you from being blindsided by the same wolf in sheep's clothing twice. You offer the grace of forgiveness, but you arm yourself with the eternal vigilance of never forgetting. This is how you remain light on your feet, unburdened by hate, yet impossible to betray a second time. You measure the cost of your own fire. What is the weight of your anger? Have you ever held it in your hands and felt its potential for absolute ruin? For the Zeta, rage is not an emotion to be unleashed, it is a force to be calibrated. Before a single word is spoken or an action taken, there is a moment of terrifying calculation. You look at the person who provoked you and ask one silent, devastating question. Can they survive what I am capable of? This is not about their physical safety, it is about their psychological integrity. You possess a deep, instinctual awareness of your own inner power, a dormant volcano of will and intensity. You know that to open the gates fully could annihilate the situation, and perhaps the person in it. This is the core of your restraint. It is not weakness, it is a grim responsibility. Where an alpha might dominate without a second thought, you hesitate not from doubt, but from a profound understanding of the collateral damage. This is the ultimate expression of Stoic control. Seneca warned that anger, even when justified, must be governed, for it carries a momentum that can easily shatter what it touches. You embody this. Your anger is not a spark to be fanned. It is a contained inferno whose heat you measure with precision. You become your own judge, jury, and executioner, and the first verdict you pass is on the appropriateness of your own response. This hesitation is your power. It transforms your anger from a blind reaction into a chosen tool. You might only show a fraction of your displeasure, but the implication of what you are holding back lingers in the air, more intimidating than any outburst. People may mistake this control for meekness. They are fools. They see the still surface of the water and cannot conceive of the leviathan that swims beneath. You have seen the depths of your own shadow, and you choose consciously when to let it see the light. This is the mark of a man who truly understands power, the wisdom to know that the greatest strength often lies in what you refuse to do. The inner sanctum. What do you do when the world becomes a source of static? When the disrespect or betrayal is not just an event, but a pollutant in your mental atmosphere. Your instinct is not to fight the noise, but to build a soundproof room inside your mind. You retreat. Not in defeat, but for recalibration. This is not the strategic withdrawal from a pointless fight. This is deeper. This is a full-scale shutdown of external engagement. You feel the need to go dark, to sever the constant drip feed of other people's demands and energies. You become a ghost in your own life, not because you are lost, but because you are conducting a forensic analysis of the infection. You are tracing the source of the poison, and that requires absolute silence. In this sanctum you are not depressed, you are hyper-aware. You replay the events not to wallow, but to deconstruct. You are reverse engineering the situation, asking not, why did they do this to me? What does this reveal about the nature of reality, about human weakness, about my own blind spots? This is a cold, dispassionate process. You are dissecting the event to extract a lesson, to upgrade your understanding of the world. It is how you transform a personal attack into a universal principle. This temporary isolation is your forge. The outside world interprets your silence as weakness, as a collapse. They see a man pulled back. They cannot see that you are in the process of pulling yourself together with a new, stronger tensile strength. You are sharpening your edge on the stone of solitude. As the Roman emperor and Stoic Marcus Aurelius would retreat to his inner citadel to find peace, you retreat to your inner workshop to rebuild your tools. You are not hiding from reality, you are immersing yourself in its raw materials to build a better defense. When you emerge, it is not with a dramatic announcement. It is with a quiet, unshakable certainty. The problem has been digested, its nutrients absorbed, its waste expelled. You have turned a violation into data. And you return to the world not with a scar, but with a new lens, making you wiser, sharper, and more formidable than before. The silence wasn't your end, it was your evolution. You don't consume anger. Do you feel anger as heat, a sudden oven in your chest asking for purpose? You do not waste that fire, you weld it into craft. You turn impulse into plan and pain into product. Anger is raw energy, not a verdict. You redirect it like a smith feeds coal to the bellows, timing breath and strike until the edge holds. Do not let rage perform as chaos, that is cheap theater, it ruins the metal. He converts outrage into tasks, small exact things that compound, 100 disciplined reps, a paragraph a day, a map of enemies and allies. Slow accumulation turns fury into power. Sun Tzu would approve the economy of force. Marcus would call it using passion as a servant, not a master. You train, you build, you write, you design, you walk until your body steadies the mind. Even creative work benefits because anger sharpens attention when it has a vessel to run through. Violence and spectacle are the poor substitutes for craftsmanship. They scatter what focus should gather. He channels, he converts. Anger becomes the meter that paces work and improvement, not just an excuse for being weak. Nietzsche said one must become what one is, you become what your fury refines into. A machine, a poem, a plan, an immovable standard. You practice rituals, you boil the grievance down to its lesson, you assign it a task and let the day take the rest. Ask yourself, will your fire burn a hut, or will it temper the blade that survives winter? Choose the forge, choose the craft, and let the furnace work for you. The observer in the storm. Have you ever noticed how, in the heart of the storm, everything slows down? For others, anger is a blur, a red haze that dulls the senses and narrows the world to a single blinding point of conflict. But for you, the opposite occurs. The surge of emotion doesn't cloud your mind, it clears it. Your perception sharpens to a terrifying, crystalline focus. This is your most strategic shift. As the tension rises, you instinctively retreat behind your own eyes. You become a pure observer, a watchful presence analyzing the battlefield from a place of cold detachment. Your hearing attunes to the subtle tremors in a voice. Your sight catches the micro-expressions that betray a lie or a hidden fear. You are not just listening to words, you are decoding the entire ecosystem of the conflict. The power dynamics, the unspoken motivations, the weaknesses in the other person's position. This is the essence of Sun Tzu's teaching. To know your enemy and know yourself, and in every battle you will be imperiled. Your anger, instead of making you the pawn, makes you the strategist. The emotional charge heightens your awareness, feeding data to your analytical mind at an accelerated rate. It is a physiological response you have mastered, turning a potential liability into your greatest asset. You see the pattern where others see only chaos. In this state, you are not making decisions, you are calculating outcomes. The Stoics believe that our power lies not in controlling events, but in controlling our judgments about them. You take this further. You use the intensity of the event to fuel the precision of your judgment. You are mapping the terrain in real time, identifying leverage points and escape routes invisible to anyone ruled by their temper. The other person sees your silence, your calm exterior, and mistakes it for passivity. They cannot fathom the hyperlucidity occurring behind your gaze. They are swinging wildly in the fog of their own emotion, while you are waiting for the one clean opening. Your anger hasn't distracted you, it has made you more present, more dangerous. You are not feeling the storm, you are learning its anatomy. And when you finally choose to act, it will not be in reaction. It will be a surgical intervention, delivered with the absolute certainty of a man who saw everything. Thanks for watching.